The year is 1941 and a secondary school in Moscow is graduating its students. Zoya's mom is running to see her daughter at the graduation. Zoya is dancing with her school friends and gets excited when she sees her mother. Zoya and her friends are enjoying their time, having just finished high school. But everything changes when Nazi troops attack the Soviet Union without declaring war. The once peaceful city of Moscow now gets bombed every day. And if not for the brave soldiers of the Soviet Union, the Nazis would have taken over the country. Zoya's boyfriend, Zhenya, visits her home for her birthday, but her mom tells him Zoya isn't there. She says Zoya is at school, but Zhenya knows that can't be true because the school was bombed. She then tells him to come back in the evening because Zoya doesn't want to see anyone or celebrate her birthday in these times. Zhenya says he won't come back because he is going to the front and came to say goodbye. Zhenya leaves the house, disappointed. After hearing this, Zoya runs to the military area where troops are being sent to the front. She searches for him tirelessly and finds him. He kisses her and promises to come back home after they win the war. The war takes an unexpected turn when winter arrives. The Nazis didn't bring proper winter clothing or enough fuel to survive the harsh weather and the Red Army's fierce resistance. Knowing this, Stalin orders his army to drive the Nazis into the cold. He tells them to set fire to settlements behind enemy lines. By destroying the houses where the Nazis might stay during the cold, the Soviet Union will have an advantage to attack the helpless Nazi army who have nowhere to run. At first, Stalin thinks this is a bad idea because the settlements are on Soviet land and the people who will suffer first are Soviets. But after hearing that every comrade agrees with the decision and knowing they will lose if they don't act quickly, Stalin gives the order. Zoya's brother Shura is also planning to leave for the front, but due to his young age, he has been rejected many times. He plans to run away and go to the front on his own, but Zoya tells him to wait for another year. Then, Zoya hears the heartbreaking news that Zhenya has died in battle. Zoya goes to Zhenya's mother, who is sitting alone in tears, holding her son's death notice. The next day, Zoya volunteers for the army to go to the front. However, after seeing her background in German language studies, the commander decides it's best to place her behind enemy lines for their new strategy against the Germans. Zoya quickly agrees and heads home. She tells her mother about her task but asks her not to tell anyone, including her brother Shura. After saying goodbye to her mother, Zoya heads to the Sabotage and Intelligence Unit, where she prepares for her upcoming mission. Their mission commander tells them that their task is very difficult and that not many of them will come back alive. He tells them to leave if they are not willing to give their life for their country. Zoya and the others then go through harsh training to become the best of the best. They are later informed that they won't need weapons for the sabotage mission, and if they do, it will only be to end their own life to avoid being captured and tortured by the Nazis. The next day, Stalin personally visits them. They are told about the depth of their mission and how crucial it is for their success, which could shift the balance of the war in their favor. The order is simple: burn as many houses as possible behind enemy lines and let the unprepared Nazi army freeze under the open sky. Stalin notices the tears on Zoya's face and asks if she is afraid. She replies, no. He then asks what she will do if she falls into enemy hands. With courage, she responds that she will endure. Next, they are trained to throw Molotov cocktails. However, one of them accidentally throws it onto himself, and the commander quickly rolls him in the snow to put out the fire. Later, their commander is asked to send cadets on an operation, but he hesitates because they've only had 3 days of training. With time running out, it's now or never, and he must pick candidates for the task. The commander asks to go with them to give them a better chance of returning, but he is denied as he must stay to train the next group. In the morning, Zoya and a few others are chosen for a mission behind enemy lines. Their commander tells them to try to come back alive. A young man named Boris is tasked with leading the group and they set off. Once they reach the outskirts of Moscow, they bury a few mines. Soon, they spot 2 Nazis on a motorcycle and quickly hide. After the Nazis leave, the group continues their work, but then they see a large number of Nazi troops marching towards them. The group tries to set off the mines, but the explosives aren't working. One of them realizes he forgot to connect the wires, so he runs to fix it. After connecting the wires, they blow up the vehicle the Nazis were using and kill a few soldiers. However, Zoya runs to check if the guy who connected the wires is still alive, and one of the Nazis, who is on fire, comes running toward them. The group uses their pistols to kill him, but their cover is blown. The Nazis open fire and the group quickly runs to the forest, though one of them is killed. The group successfully returns to the unit, and the commander tells Zoya that anyone who returns from the field is changed inside. The next day, the group is given a new assignment. They head to a village where Nazi troops are stationed. Boris uses his binoculars to count the houses and gives a description of how they will attack. Although a few members of the group are missing, they can't wait for them. Boris, Zoya, and Vasily decide to carry out the mission that night. They each take 4 bottles and plan to burn the Nazis' barns one by one. The 3 of them sneak into the camp unnoticed and spread out. Boris burns 3 houses one after the other with his bottles. Zoya is supposed to act next, but her bottle lands on the roof and falls to the ground without causing any damage. Zoya wants to try again, but a local boy spots the fire Boris started and runs inside to warn everyone. Boris dashes into the woods as the Nazis spot him and start shooting. Zoya also tries to escape but runs into a local man who lets her go after realizing she is from Moscow. She runs into the woods as well. Vasily realizes he can't hide anymore, so he stashes his belongings in a barrel, throws away his pistol, and decides to run. This way, if he gets caught, he can claim to be a local villager. Vasily is then caught and beaten. In the morning, the Nazis report to their commander, Eric, and tell him that it wasn't the locals who did this, yet they found no suspicion on Vasily. Vasily claims he came to visit his aunt and tried to run when he saw the fires. Eric tells them not to harm Vasily anymore, knowing that saboteurs are highly trained and they need to find another way. Eric then notices that Vasily's underwear is a machine sewn, unlike the locals. He orders them to torture Vasily until he reveals the location of his base and also commands a search party to find more saboteurs in the area. In the morning, Zoya wakes up in a trench filled with dead bodies. She eats snow for water and decides to go back and finish her mission. She waits until nightfall and heads to burn a barn which belongs to the man who let her go the other day. He finds her again and tells her that the war is over and the Nazis are already in Moscow, something he read in a Soviet Union newspaper. Zoya doesn't believe him and hits him, trying to continue her mission, but the commotion alerts the Nazis. They quickly react and she is caught. Eric tells Zoya she will be hanged for being an arsonist and her body will rot. He doesn't want to use force to get information from her, but from her reactions, he realizes she can speak German. Surprised by this, he wants to learn more about her, but they are interrupted by the arrival of Colonel Ludwig. Ludwig warns Eric's men not to rape or mutilate Zoya, and Eric goes to see him. Ludwig orders Eric to hang the saboteurs as an example to the village. Eric, however, wants to know more about their sabotage school to prevent future attacks. Ludwig is disappointed by Eric's desire to investigate rather than act quickly, which he believes is necessary to bring sudden change in the war. Ludwig orders Eric to execute at least one of them and do as he please with the others. Zoya is then flogged naked for her attempt to start the fire. The locals feel sorry for her but are helpless. The Nazi soldiers watch her suffering, laughing and enjoying the sight. Eric arrives and tells Zoya to give him a name to stop her suffering, but she refuses. Despite more flogging, Zoya doesn't crack, and Eric orders them to stop for the night. However, after he leaves, the soldiers continue flogging her. A courageous boy who found Vasily's pistol on the ground runs home to try to help Zoya, but his mother stops him. Eric then goes to Vasily, who is still sticking to his story. Eric shows him Zoya's belongings. Vasily, believing he's been caught, says he will tell them everything, but instead of listening, they get angry and beat him. Back in Moscow, Shura is still trying to enlist in the army, but he's told that he is still too young. He then learns about his sister's whereabouts after Averin, the army recruiter, tells him about Zoya's bravery and courage. Eric brings Zoya to his office and tells her everything they know about their sabotage group. It seems Vasily has told them everything. Eric then brings in Vasily, who confirms that Zoya is her name. Eric asks Zoya to confirm this, but she refuses. Eric tells Vasily that he needs Zoya to confirm so that he won't kill him. Seeing Zoya's stubbornness, Vasily cries, believing Zoya has already confessed, and begs her to confirm it because they will both die if she doesn't. Zoya tells him they are there so that the people they care about in Moscow can live, not them. After hearing this, Eric orders them to take Vasily away and turns to Zoya. He is amazed by her courage and tries to convince her to join their cause. He tells her they need people like her who think beyond themselves. But she refuses his offer and is taken away. That night, she is raped by the soldiers and spends the night in their custody. In the morning, Eric orders her to be cleaned and dressed. He is disappointed by what has happened to her. She is cleaned up and prepared to be hanged. They take a picture of her to send to Berlin. Some of the locals are angry because it was their houses that the saboteurs burned. A rope is put around her neck, and before she is hanged, she gives a speech. She tells the people to kill, burn, or poison any Nazi they find, and reminds them that there are too many for them all to be hanged like her. She is then hanged in front of everyone. This shows that Zoya displayed great courage until the very end. The Nazis left Moscow and Russia within a few months. Vasily survived, but his treason was discovered, and he was shot by the Red Army. Boris died in battle, as did Shura. Zoya became the first woman to be awarded the title of Hero of the Soviet Union. If you found this story moving, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible tales of bravery. See you in the next video.